Yesterday, on the 22nd of August, the MK party, for the first time since it was formed in December, regaled us with its structure. This included its announcement and its unveiling of the National High Command and some of the top officials that are in the High Command. Now, according to the MK, the High Command is the highest decision making body in the political party, and it has 8 senior members and other members that form part of the National High Command. Jacob Zuma retains his seat as the president. Dr. John Hlophe was announced as the deputy president of the party. Dr. Sihle Masego was announced as the secretary general of the MK party, and Floyd Nyiko Shivambu, who left the EFF to join the MK party, was announced as its national organizer. Now, this press briefing also served to give us insight into some of its structures and how the political party will run itself. Because it was launched last year, so technically it's still less than a year old. So we'll forgive them for taking some time to organize themselves. Be that as it may, one of the key things that I want to point out, which is something of concern, is how the political party itself is going to run, how the leadership is going to be selected, and how the structure of the leadership will change or will not change. Jacob Zuma announced that only he has the power to select leaders. He announced that the MK party will not have any elective conference, which means that only Jacob Zuma has the power to choose who fills which role in the MK party. Could this explain why the MK party has been bleeding members? We don't know. But for a party that claims to espouse democracy and that espouses Pan-Africanism, it's a bit concerning to find that they are already pushing this narrative of almost an authoritarianism type of leadership, where Jacob Zuma himself is the sole leader, unchanged and permanent. In fact, the Secretary General himself mentioned that the reason why there won't be any elective conference is because they do not want to disturb the unity of Mkhonto Wesizwe. Now, it's pretty concerning when we've got a political party in a democratic dispensation that dispenses with the democratic process of electing voters, of electing leaders. Obviously, every political party has the right to run itself the way it wants to run itself. Now, one of the most concerning things is that a political party would deprive its members of the right to select leaders of their choice. Now, obviously, factionalism exists. It exists whether there is an elective conference or whether there is an authoritarian type of leadership or whether there's even a dictatorship. Because the idea that a party's unity can only be challenged in an elective conference shouldn't concern us. In fact, it should show that we are an active democratic society. Now, when a political party strips its members of the right and the obligation and the opportunity and the privilege to vote for leaders of their choice, does that mean that the party does not take into consideration the concerns, the voices of its members? Because it's not the first time we have heard that there is a political party with a high command. A political party with a high command normally means that the leadership is not going to change anytime, except whenever it suits the whim of the leader of the political party. In this case, we've seen an influx of members being kicked out of the party, members being removed from parliament, members being fired, being restored, only to be fired all over again. Now, while it's still too soon to tell what's going to happen in the MK party and to tell what's going to happen in the leadership structures, I do urge a sense of caution in how we are going to understand how this party is going to proceed going forward, and how this presents a challenge in how we as a democratic country and we as a democratic society are supposed to perceive or receive a political party that will not elect its leaders. but that will have only one person choosing its leaders. Now, I repeat that quite as often as I possibly can because it's concerning. I'm a journalist, and I received flag recently for airing out my personal views. But aside from being a journalist, I'm also a human being. I'm also a South African. I'm also a concerned citizen. And I think perhaps the MK party may want to consider, or rather reconsider, this absolute stance on leadership that they have. Maybe they might want to give their members an opportunity to exercise the democratic right and choose leaders. Because if a party has one leader for the rest of its existence, it sounds a bit like a dictatorship, doesn't it? But if a party is given the opportunity to elect members, if a party is given the opportunity for members to canvass for votes, for members to canvass for senior leadership positions, means that even though the party may not agree with what people say and think of it, the party will still respect people's right to choose, because it was chosen, it was elected during a democratic election process. Now, for a party to be elected during a democratic election process, only for its leadership to announce almost an authoritarian type of structure where only Jacob Zuma and Jacob Zuma alone chooses who should be the leader is concerning. It's literally the official position, the third biggest party in the country. And we obviously have to call it out for not having any such democratic structure. Even the EFF has an elective conference where they elect leaders, where they're given a chance to canvass for positions or to campaign for positions to lead the EFF in various structures and in various forms. Whether those votes or whether those processes are on par, it's another question for another day. Be that as it may, they are still there. Now, let's just examine how important it is to have a democratic society, how important it is for a political party to exercise democracy. It means some of the policies, structures, and the decisions can be challenged. It means the leadership can be challenged. It means members have the right, power, and the ability to call out the leadership whenever they feel like the leadership is not doing right, or whenever they feel like the leadership is not taking the party in a direction that they voted the party to go into. Now, when we have one leader, it's almost like it's either his way or the highway. And that's concerning, especially from a former president of our country. Jacob Zuma was our president, guys, for 2 terms, So that really brings into question whether he had these almost authoritarian leanings even as a president, or are they just developing now in response to his tryst with the ANC. Now, this video doesn't serve to criticize the MK party. I, for one, am glad that we have a new face on the political sphere and on the political landscape of the country. But for a party not to have an elective conference, but for a party to have only one leader, is something that I have to call out. I'm not calling it out, or I'm not doing this video in my capacity as a journalist, but in my capacity as a South African citizen who wants his fellow South African citizens to know their nation, to know what's happening, and to be aware and to make sound choices next time you go to the elections. Because next time you go to the elections, I want you to be aware that you are voting for a party that will, in all probabilities, not listen to your choice of leaders, not listen to what you believe or whom you believe should lead the party.